Most men do not struggle in relationships because they are weak. They struggle because they were never taught the truth. From a young age, men are trained to believe that love is earned through consistency, that if you show up every day, stay loyal, remain kind, and give emotional security, you will be chosen permanently. This belief feels logical, it feels fair, and it feels safe. But it is also the first illusion that quietly destroys men from the inside, because the female mind does not operate on moral contracts, it operates on emotional perception. This is not an attack, it is an explanation most men only understand after loss. Men are taught to build, women are wired to respond. A man believes stability creates attraction. A woman experiences attraction through emotional movement, and when emotional movement disappears, attraction slowly follows. Most men never see this coming. They feel it only after the tone changes, after the affection cools, after the respect becomes conditional. And the most painful part is this: she often cannot explain why she feels different. Men assume attraction fades because of mistakes, arguments, or betrayal. But attraction rarely disappears in chaos. It disappears in comfort, in predictability, in emotional flatness disguised as peace. This is the part no one warns you about. A woman can feel safe with you and still lose desire. She can trust you and still feel disconnected. She can appreciate everything you do and still stop choosing you emotionally. When this happens, men respond with effort. They talk more, explain more, give more, become more available, and every one of those actions feels right to a man. But to the female mind, they often signal emotional collapse, because attraction is not built on effort. It is built on perception. The female mind is constantly reading energy, not words, not intentions, energy. When a man becomes emotionally dependent, when his identity shrinks into the relationship, when his presence feels predictable and always available, something inside her begins to disconnect. Not consciously, not maliciously, but biologically. This is why many men say, "She changed." But nothing changed externally. What changed was the dynamic. The emotional polarity disappeared. Men are taught that love grows through closeness. Women experience love through tension. When tension disappears completely, love becomes familiarity, and familiarity slowly becomes emotional distance. This is why silence is more dangerous than conflict, because silence feels calm, while damage spreads underneath. A woman does not wake up one day and decide to lose attraction. It happens quietly, gradually, internally. She feels less stimulated, less emotionally activated, less curious. And because men are taught to fix problems logically, they try to repair an emotional shift with logic. That is where the misunderstanding becomes permanent. The female mind does not disconnect through anger. It disconnects through boredom, through emotional predictability, through the absence of polarity. And when men finally notice, they are already reacting too late. This is why breakups feel sudden to men, why they say, "I never saw it coming," but the signs were always there. They were simply invisible to someone taught the wrong rules. This video is not about blaming women, and it is not about hating relationships. It is about removing illusions, because once illusions disappear, clarity replaces confusion, and clarity changes everything. When a man understands how the female mind actually works, he stops chasing reassurance, stops negotiating desire, stops shrinking himself to feel chosen. He begins to move differently, speak differently, and carry himself with quiet authority. This is not manipulation, it is alignment. And alignment is the difference between being respected and being emotionally tolerated. Most men never learn this. They live inside comforting lies until reality forces the lesson through loss. This video exists so you do not have to learn the hard way, because the most dangerous thing for a man is not rejection. It is believing illusions that slowly erase his power, because understanding the female mind is not about memorizing behaviors. It is about understanding emotional patterns. Men often believe women leave because they find someone better. Sometimes that is true, but more often, women leave because something inside them went quiet long before anyone else appeared. The female mind is deeply responsive to emotional contrast, not stability alone, not chaos alone. Contrast. Contrast is the space between closeness and independence, between presence and absence, between familiarity and mystery. When that contrast disappears, attraction slowly weakens. This is where many men make their most damaging mistake. They believe being fully available is proof of love. They believe emotional transparency guarantees trust. They believe consistency equals desire. But desire does not grow in emotional flatness. It grows in movement. A woman does not want uncertainty, but she does not want predictability either. She wants emotional stimulation without emotional insecurity. That balance is where most men fail. When a man centers his entire emotional world around a relationship, his life begins to shrink. His energy narrows. His identity becomes relational instead of personal. And the female mind notices this shift instantly, not because women are cruel, but because attraction is sensitive to energy. A man who no longer has his own gravity no longer pulls emotionally. This is why women often say, "I don't know what changed. I just don't feel the same." They are not lying. They genuinely cannot trace the moment, because the disconnection happened gradually, emotionally, subconsciously. Men misinterpret this. They think reassurance will fix it. They think more communication will restore closeness. They think sacrifice will rebuild desire. But desire does not respond to negotiation. The female mind does not ask, "How much does he give?" It asks, "How does he make me feel?" And feelings are influenced by perception, not intention. When a man becomes emotionally predictable, his presence loses impact. When his availability becomes unlimited, his value feels assumed. When his emotional reactions become transparent, mystery disappears. None of this feels dangerous. That is why men miss it. It feels like maturity, like emotional growth, like safety. But safety without stimulation becomes emotional neutrality. And neutrality is where attraction slowly dies. This is why women can leave relationships that look perfect on paper. Why men say, "I did everything right." They did everything right for stability, not for desire. The female mind does not reward comfort the way men expect. It rewards emotional leadership. Leadership is not control. It is direction. A man who leads emotionally does not chase reassurance. He does not explain himself into respect. He does not collapse under emotional pressure. Remains grounded, centered, self-directed. This creates emotional contrast. Women do not want to feel responsible for a man's emotional state. When they do, desire fades. This is one of the most painful truths men are never told. When your happiness depends on her response, she begins to feel emotional weight instead of emotional pull, and attraction cannot survive under pressure. The female mind seeks emotional expansion, not emotional obligation. This is why neediness repels, even when it is disguised as devotion. And this is why confidence attracts, even when it is quiet. Men often confuse emotional openness with emotional dependence. They are not the same. Emotional openness invites connection. Emotional dependence drains it. The female mind senses the difference immediately. This is also why arguments are not always the problem. Sometimes conflict maintains polarity. Sometimes silence destroys it. Silence feels calm, but it removes friction, and friction is where emotional charge exists. Without emotional charge, relationships become functional instead of alive. And alive is what the female mind responds to. This does not mean drama. It means depth, movement, psychological presence. Most men never learn this. They are taught to avoid tension at all costs, to smooth everything, to neutralize emotion. But attraction is not neutral. It is dynamic. This is why understanding the female mind is not about tactics. It is about internal structure. When a man rebuilds his internal structure, his external interactions change naturally. He becomes less reactive, less explanatory, less desperate to be understood, and more rooted in himself. That shift alone changes how women respond, not because he tries, but because energy changes. This is the level most men never reach, because no one explains it to them clearly until now. By now, something important should be clear. Understanding the female mind is not about changing who you are. It is about removing the behaviors that quietly work against you. Most men fail not because they are bad partners, but because they unknowingly abandon their own center. They give too much explanation, too much availability, too much emotional exposure, and they mistake this for maturity. But maturity without self-direction feels hollow. The female mind does not respond to a man who dissolves into the relationship. It responds to a man who remains whole within it. This is where everything shifts. When a man stops chasing emotional certainty, he becomes emotionally stable. When he stops negotiating attraction, he becomes attractive. When he stops explaining himself into acceptance, he becomes respected, not through force, through presence. Presence is the silent language the female mind understands best. A man who is present does not need constant validation. He does not fear silence. He does not panic when emotions fluctuate. He remains grounded, even when the emotional weather changes. This is not emotional coldness. It is emotional sovereignty, and sovereignty is deeply attractive. Women are drawn to men who are comfortable within themselves, men who do not outsource their emotional regulation, men who do not collapse under uncertainty. This does not mean withholding love. It means offering love without self self-erasure. Many men confuse leadership with control, but emotional leadership is not about dominance. It is about direction. Direction means knowing where you stand, even when emotions are unclear, even when answers are delayed, even when reassurance is absent. The female mind senses this stability immediately, not because it is loud, but because it is rare. This is why women often say they feel calmer, safer, and more connected around certain men without being able to explain why. Those men are not trying harder. They are holding themselves. This is the truth most men are never prepared for. Attraction is not something you earn once and keep forever. It is something you maintain through who you are, not through what you do. When a man rebuilds his internal structure, his external behavior adjusts naturally. He speaks with less urgency. He listens without anxiety. He acts without seeking approval. And this changes the entire emotional dynamic, not overnight, but permanently, because attraction responds to consistency of identity, not consistency of effort. This is where illusions finally fall apart. Love is not guaranteed by sacrifice. Desire is not preserved by availability. And connection does not survive self-abandonment. When men understand this, they stop blaming women and they stop blaming themselves. They see the system clearly, and clarity replaces confusion. This video was never about teaching tricks. It was about removing blindness, because once you see clearly, you cannot unsee it. And once illusions are gone, you move differently. You choose differently. You lead differently, not to control outcomes, but to stop losing yourself. So here is the question that matters. If attraction fades in predictability and desire weakens when you abandon your center, what part of yourself have you been slowly giving up without realizing it? Think about that. And if this perspective challenged what you believed, share it with someone who needs clarity, not comfort. Subscribe if you want deeper psychological insight, without illusions, without manipulation, and without comforting lies, because understanding changes everything.